G'day guys, today we're going to do a quick DIY instructional video how to wrap a small press boat. This is a press boat because we've got these press lines on the side. It's not smooth, so it's not a plate boat. This is a really popular little boat. I get so many requests to wrap these little guys. And seeing that they're a small boat, heaps of people are keen to wrap them themselves with a DIY kit. So this is what this video is all about. I'm going to show you how to wrap this little boat. It's really quite easy. Alrighty, so first things first, and that's the existing decals. On a new boat, they're going to be so easy to get off. On an older boat, you're going to maybe have to use a heat gun to heat it up and then peel them off. And you're going to have to definitely use something to get the old adhesive off, because as you pull the sticker off, see how easy this comes off, brand new. It's probably only been on there for a little while. That's really easy on a new boat. On an old boat, it's not going to be that way. That hasn't even left glue behind. So it's just a bit of time just to remove all that. So you probably need half an hour to take all these decals off and then clean it over, and I'll get to that in a second. So now I've got the stickers off, I guess we should talk about the tools we're going to need. Stencil knives if you have one. These are good for cutting around small objects or penetrations in the boat that you can't remove. So you need a stencil knife. Applicator, a flexible applicator, a nice sort of firm but soft applicator, because you need it to bend as you're putting it on. The felt block, which I use basically in the final thing to go around the perimeter when you're post heating. Knifeless tape, need that for the perimeter of the boat. Snap off blade, a clean cloth, and isopropyl. Isopropyl is for cleaning the boat. If you've got an older boat, you might have to go through a couple of other cleaning stages. When you've got the stickers off, use a product called Oomph. That'll break the glue down. Then you need to get that off. So I actually typically wash the boats with dishwashing liquid detergent, which is good for removing other contaminants and grease and anything that you've made whilst cleaning off glue and stuff off the boat. Then once you've cleaned that down, it's a good idea to go over with acetone or methylated spirits is a good one, but all of those products still leave another film on the boat that you want to get off. The last one, isopropyl alcohol, that's your last clean. You need to make sure you get really a lot of effort into these presses. Make sure they're spotlessly clean. If you're an older boat, 220 wet and dry, sand them out so they're nice and etched, so your film's going to stick in there really well. There's also another product, 3M primer, that I would use on older boats. I would prime all of those creases and around the edges on older boats. All right, let's get to wrapping. Any penetrations in the boat, like this fuel breather, which you'll get only with boats with underfloor tanks, just loosen that off. Take that out and just push that in. You can get into these quite easily from inside the boat. That's just going to be such a better finish to just cut that hole out, put the fitting back in, as opposed to cutting around that fitting. It's much better to remove your fittings. So once you've cleaned everything down and you're really happy that it's absolutely spotless, then it's time for your knifeless tape. So you're going to basically put this on much like you would do a pinstripe. Now we have to stay down from the welds. If you wrap over welds, you create an uneven surface, and that's not going to be good for trying to keep out water or dirt and grit and God knows what else. So typically put the knifeless tape right on the edge of that weld, so when we pull this filament through and cut the wrap, it's going to be as close as possible and as neat as possible along the whole length of the boat. So all I do is put a little bit of tension on it, make sure it's straight, running nice and straight, and just dab it down with my finger along the way. So now I've got the knifeless tape on, we've gone around the entire perimeter with that tape, make sure it's on nice and securely, it's not going to just start peeling off, so you've got to make sure that's on. We get to this point where we're now going to put the wrap on. You're going to get a bit nervous about this. This application is done dry, no water, and we're going to peel the entire back off all at once. So yes, you are going to have a very large sticker ready to wrap onto itself and destroy itself. Don't stress, I'll show you a few tricks. This is really nice and easy and you won't stuff it up. Trust me, just follow my instructions. First of all, with this little boat, we're just going to start at the front. We're going to start peeling the back off. That'll do for now. Alright, make sure we're up the right way. Get it approximately where you think it will be. And we're just going to tack it on. We're using a 3M product, so its initial tack is really quite good. If you're using Avery, that tack's going to be a lot less and it's likely to let go. Yeah, so I'll still do the same process, but if you're using other films that don't have such an initial tack, just be careful that when you pull on it, you may pull it off and it'll hit the floor. You don't want that. However, it still can be rescued. We'll go into that later. But for now, all we're doing is tacking that on there, lock it on nicely, and then all we're doing is holding the roll, peeling the back off until it hits the roll, and then use that to roll it and just support the roll and walk along. When you've gotten to, say, this stage, put another lock on, so that's on quite firm, and you continue just quite simply pulling the liner to pull the back in. Pull the liner on. There. That's by no means, that's not ready to install. So now what we have to do is to shift it around. I'd never just hang my wraps from the top rail. You're leading yourself into a lot of trouble if you do. That makes the job very hard. So what we're going to do now, it's all peeled and hanging there, we're actually going to position the wrap. Now the wrap's, like I said, it's hanging from the top rail and we still really need to position the wrap. What I mean by that is, you can see that there's no ink there. So basically I've made a template of this boat whilst I was designing it. So I've made all of these components sit within the flattened shape of the boat. So therefore, I know that this is the right shape for this boat. So I'm actually just going to, again, I'm going to start pinning it to the top rail again, but I'll also start tacking it to the chine. Like I said, because I've made a template of this boat previously, and I've designed it to have bleeds that's meant to overhang, to cut off. Just position it between the gunnel and the chine so there's no wrinkles or any funny stuff happening in between. Lower. I'm trying to make sure not to cut off any fish. Down. So you take your time with this. There's no rushing in any part of this. Boat wrapping takes time and patience. Can't rush it. Alright, see how we've got this bit of extra material here? We want to work that out, so we'll just keep moving along. Could even start off there. Keep that little mark. So that's really good. As you can see, it's now contouring the shape of the boat. So if you're hanging from the top rail only, it'd be alright in this section, but as you get up here, you would get an unpredictable swing up in the print, and you don't want that. That's why you lock it in as tight to the boat as you can, to the shape of the boat, not just hanging. It's a very, very important tip. We've gotten to the stage where we're happy where the film is sitting from gunnel to chine. Now with these press boats, I do like to start from the centre, and for the first press I work up into that first press. run along and then over the top press. Again, because I don't like locking on at the top. If you lock on at the top first and you sneak along, it just tends to move a lot more. So we're going to come down, there's that first press, which is the smaller press, then there's a wider press, and that's the second one. That's where we're going to start. I can see where the edge of it is, so that's the edge of that first press, the second press, sorry. And then I'm just going to run along there, just like that, and I'm locking it on. And I'm probably going to do 1200-1500 wide sort of run, because I really want this print to lock on. And I'm going side to side, or if I was doing a plate boat, I'd probably lock it on vertically and make this, and I'd work backwards and forwards in this sort of circular motion, pushing the film towards that way. With a press boat we can't, we've got to work along these press lines. So we've got to follow them and work along them. So I've locked onto there and I'm working up into the first press. This first press we're just going to slowly, we just butt into it, and that's where we stop. And we're just going to walk along very slowly from where we've locked it on that bottom edge of the panel that we're working on that second press section, and we're just going to work up into that press line. And the reason why we've got to work this way, because we don't want to stress the film into any of these press lines. If you stress or stretch the film into those press lines, you'll find later they will bubble out and you get a bubble wherever you haven't done it correctly. And that's why I always say, especially on your older boats, you must use your 220 wet and dry to sand in them, because even if it's painted, it's absorbed contaminations and it will affect the adhesion. So yeah, these crease lines on older boats must be cleaned and sanded. On a brand new boat, just cleaned. As you can see, it's just working up. So I've already locked that on that way, and then I work it up into that first crease, into that first press line. And then on the face of that, we're going to be just as carefully work up the face of it. Again, I am not stretching this film into those press lines at all. Alright, so as I go along, I'll go along horizontal again. And I'll just keep on going along and then working up. And yes, I take it off where I've hung it. Go along, work up into that first press line. Again, as you work along, so now I'll just put a little crease in there from a bit of extra material. Just pop it off. I'm not pressing extra hard, that comes later. I'm just getting it to adhere on, not to its full bond. Okay, working up into that first section of the press line. And as you can see, this is hanging and it's not rippling because there's no stress in the film. You know, we're not getting these funny weird tension lines. It's all really relaxed, it all sits really straight. It's because we've been careful in keeping no stress in the film, keeping the film stress free. So we work up just over the face of it and just over the top of that first press line, and we're going to work along very carefully, working up to lock it in over that press line without stressing the film. Alright, so that looks really good. Come up a bit over there, there. I'll zoom in and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing after I show you this bit. So now we've come up, we've gone into the first crease, we've gone up to the face of the first press, and now we're over the top of the first press. And from here, that's our knifeless tape, we want to push up and go over that knifeless tape the whole way.